Please pray with me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts draw us closer to, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Well, some of y'all know I come from sheep people. My great-great-grandparents first settled in Sutton County, West Texas, and they set up a sheep operation. As over 100 years ago, we got a certificate for being a family that has ranched sheep in that same place, sadly, kind of in the same way for all that time. Got a certificate from the Texas legislature. They are not completely useless. And my cousin Tom E. is still the rancher. And those sheep are the descendants of many generations of our family and their generations that produce a very, very fine wool. Because we're wool growers, not meat growers. That doesn't mean we don't sell off some lambs sometime, but it does mean that mostly we shear them for the wool. And over the years, that wool, which is a very fine wool, we often win Best Fleece at the San Angelo Stock Show. That valiant wool, yes, that was my mother's family name, the Valiants of West Texas. That wool is used often in very fine men's suits. It's been seen as far away as Italy. It has been in every single kind of uniform the United States military has ever produced since the 1880s. When World War I came around and there were 5 valiant brothers, 4 went to war, including my grandfather, but 1 had to stay home with the sheep because they needed the wool. So all these biblical images about sheep are fascinating for me because the reality of sheep and what most people think sheep reality is are not really the same. And I suspect that the psalmist knew sheep like we know sheep, right? This is not sweet, fluffy little lamb, something that, Lisa would put in the marketplace, little sweet little lamb bouncing around in really green grass. No. If you're a valiant sheep in West Texas, you are living with stickers and burrs and rocks and rattlesnakes and coyotes. And you've got a few little pieces of grass that maybe you can find if you really work at it. They live on very little. But they do understand something about being shepherded that I think is important for this metaphor. Sheep are actually smarter than they're usually given credit for. For example, they know their shepherd. I can remember being on the ranch in the summer and my mother could drive down the road, my uncle could drive down the road, anybody could drive down the road, and the sheep would kind of look up and go, oh, there's a car. But when my grandfather's pickup went down the road, oh my heavens, that meant they were going to get extra treats. And they ran towards that pickup. My mother couldn't tell cars apart. And I have to admit, unfortunate in West Texas, given that they're all white F-150s. I'm not sure how these sheep could tell them apart, but they knew their shepherd. They knew their shepherd. They knew where it came. Now, they are fairly foolish in that when it rains, which isn't that often out there, but when it does, they'll put their heads up like this and they will drown in the rain. So when it rains, a shepherd has to go and try to do whatever you can. If they're way out in the pasture, you're just going to have to accept losses. But they will die in the rain because they're trying to drink it like idiots. They will also eat a weed called bitterweed. And some of y'all have heard some of this before, I admit. I'm recycling some of this for the new people. Bitterweed is a toxic weed that likes to grow in our part of West Texas, and sheep love it. They will prefer that to any other forage they can find, and it will kill them every time. They're addicted to it, and it will kill them every time. So when the sheep get on bitterweed, which we try to avoid, we really try to avoid this, being good shepherds, you can put them in a pen and separate them from wherever the weed might be and try to feed them until they get well. But if there's a tiny bit of bitterweed outside that fence, outside that pen, they'll literally rip their wool off trying to get to it. Now, I'm not taking anybody's inventory today, but if you've ever struggled with addiction, maybe you understand these sheep. That you could literally be addicted to something that will kill you. And you might kill yourself just trying to get to it. Now, if you've not struggled with addiction, I'll bet everybody in here knows someone who has. So we're not the only addicts. Sheep have the possibility of addiction. So we work really hard to make sure the bitterweed doesn't get on the ranch, and that means that we have to, every truck that comes on has to wash their tires, and my cousin is constantly patrolling all the water gaps and the fences to try to make sure this weed never takes hold. Because if it does, you're out of the sheep business. Now, ironically, most people will say goats will eat anything, but they won't eat bitterweed. Goats are a little smarter than sheep. They won't eat anything that'll kill them. And that includes the time when they ate all the insulation off the water well, and my father nearly made cabrito in the front yard. He was so mad at those goats. So what can we take from this as we hear this familiar song that talks about God? Insert any other phrase you want. The God of our understanding, the life force, the source, the universe. Please feel free to insert anything. But think about this metaphor. If the holy driving force is like a shepherd, don't most of us, like the Gershwin song, want somebody to watch over us? I know I do. Please, I really need a minder. Y'all know me pretty well. I need a minder. I need somebody to look out for me and take care of me the way my grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents took care of those sheep, protecting them from the coyotes, keeping them away from addictive substances, making sure they had food and water, making sure they had what they needed just to live. No fancy stuff, but enough to be okay. Don't you want that? I want that. And that's where we come into the nature of what is the holy and what is our relationship to the holy. Now, using big theological words, this is a question of immanence and transcendence. But really it is where does the sacred live for you? And as Sharon and Brian said in their own ways, where does it not live, right? And I actually love that answer. And can anything be sacred? Absolutely. 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 Some things are obviously sacred. We sing about the beauty of the earth and the glory of the stars. And I mean, it's easy. Like when I was at Christ in the Desert and it was so dark and I could even see the Milky Way, to say, when we're full of awe, whatever that looks like for you and whatever brings you to awe, when we're full of awe, it's easy to see the sacred. It's easy to see the holy. Not always so easy to see it in West Texas in a rattlesnake. To be real truthful, I'm still working on that one. I think God might have made a mistake on that. They're just mean, and they hurt little lambs, and they hurt little everythings, and, you know, I know they're just trying to get along, but I still can't figure out what their actual purpose is. You don't need to lecture me on reptilian ways, but I'm just saying, there are some critters I'm not sure, and there's some humans I wonder, oh my heavens, really? What is their purpose? Do they have one? You know, I'm just telling the truth, right? It's easy to see the sacred when it comes wrapped in the Milky Way. Not so much when it comes in the form of something that is hurtful, fearful, ugly, nasty. Not so easy. And yet, shepherds don't choose. Shepherds take care of the ugly sheep too, the nasty sheep. They take care of sheep when they get screw worms, and I'm telling you, that's disgusting. It's really disgusting, and it smells too. So what is this longing that we have to be seen about? And I will say, in my own life, I have a sense of that. I have a sense of the holy watching out for me and being in me and around me and in others. And yes, it's easier to see when I'm at the monastery and the sky is beautiful, and not so easy to see when I'm coping with bureaucrats in Martinez or elsewhere, or when things are going badly. So this psalm speaks to us when things are not going well, and says that we are beloved. Now, you all, some of you have been around here a long time, you know I have this ongoing sort of theological conversation with Nancy Lemon about is there a benevolent God? Is the universe fundamentally good? And I have said for many years, I think the absolute truth is we will never know. She believes it, and it really works for her. And if you believe it, let it work for you. But if you're like me and you're a little more skeptical, how about transferring that longing to be watched after to our own selves and to one another? You'll see on the back of this bulletin an amazing sort of redoing of the prayer that came from our denomination. And one of the most important things is to put aside the sort of Jesus and me interpretation of this psalm is, you know, Jesus is here for me and all is well, but instead use all of your pronouns to expand what it means. Because trust me, one sheep doth not need a shepherd. It's when we got lots of sheep that they need shepherds. One person alone doesn't require that care. But when we're in groups, we need leaders, we need shepherding, we need direction, we need protection. And that's probably job one of caring for sheep, is just to protect them. Just to protect them. Some of you all have heard that we've recently, because many ranches around us have stopped raising sheep and are now exotic game ranches, that coyotes have come back in force. My great-great-grandparents did not have this problem. It might be a little bit from climate change as well, but one year my cousin lost 278 lambs in one spring to coyotes. Now, setting aside the money, that's just sad. So he was determined to find a way to protect those sheep from the coyotes. He tried everything. He tried shooting them. He tried poisoning them. He tried traps. He tried everything. And he tried llamas, and they were useless. He now has a llama herd. They're kind of cute, and he's starting to shear them, but they were useless. They were kind of like, oh, hi sheep, we'll come play with you. But they were no good at protecting from the coyotes. He finally tried an ancient Basque solution. You know, Basque people are great shepherds. And he has Great Pyrenees dogs. And the dogs live rough with the sheep. And he keeps them just trained enough that they won't attack humans. So he will call them in, feed them from time to time, does not give them names, because if you give them a name, he said, then they'll want a social security number, and I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. They're a deduction, not a source of income. So seeing these almost polar bears lope across, and the fact that they don't kill the coyotes, they just scare them off. So there's now a coexistence because someone stepped in the gap and said, you don't get them today. And that someone was a Great Pyrenees dog bred to do this job, understanding how to do this job, doing it in a partially nonviolent way. They don't kill the coyotes, they just run them off. They protect the sheep. So how will we contend with this idea of wanting to be cared for and also accepting the possibility that we too are shepherds? That we too are shepherds. Who knows your name? Who comes running when your pickup shows up? Who knows they can count on you? Bonnie, I think, not only because you gave her an illustrated version of the 23rd Psalm, your daughter knows she can count on you. You've been her shepherd and her mother. Every one of us has somebody, something that counts on us. Are we good shepherds? Do we provide some of the things that are in the Psalm? Do we provide the protection and the peace and a table, and do we anoint one another with oil and say, you are beloved and I love you? This is the invitation to both recognize your need for a shepherd, think about what really does meet that need in you, or if it's not met, what you need. And also, how are you a shepherd? How are you a shepherd? How are you moving through the world, willing to protect, willing to care for, willing to honor? So I said that surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. There's a little country and western praise song that says, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. And I shall dwell in the house of the Holy One in awe, in wonder. Amen. Amen.